The mysterious Nostradamus figure, DC's Nightmare, says he won't be posting on social media to November the 17th. So, what's happening on November the 17th? Well, if I'm right, and correct me if I'm wrong, November the 17th is the anniversary of the release date of the theatrical cut of Justice League, or as we call it more accurately, Justice League. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong again, there's going to be a Snyderverse fan trending event on social media. I will be there hashtagging along with you because I love Zack Snyder, I love his DC movies, and I want the Snyderverse restored. But it is very curious that this Nostradamus figure that's made lots of predictions and lots of accurate claims about the future of DC film has said he won't be posting until November the 17th. November the 17th trending event. So many Snyder fans are beginning to put two and two together and either get 4 or 66 and are starting to think that something could be announced on November the 17th. I think we should all hold our horses. I'm not necessarily sure that's going to happen. I would welcome some kind of announcement. Now, very, very curious, the American news outlet CNBC has said that Paramount are going to take their offer to the shareholders of Warner Brothers Discovery and try and do an aggressive takeover of the company. So that's very, very interesting. Also, we should hear from Warner Brothers Discovery if the company will be sold by the end of this year or if they're going to hold their horses and not sell the company. So lots of interesting things are going to happen in the coming days. Could this culminate with a huge announcement on November the 17th? As I've already said, we've really got to hold our horses. But it's curious that DC's Nightmare has said he won't be posting. He could be a she, right? You're not James Gunn's wife, are you? If you are, I like James Gunn's wife. I so would. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. But yeah, so DC's Nightmare will not be posting till November the 17th. So I found that very, very curious. So clearly November the 17th is a huge date in DC fans' calendars. And this trending event, and I love these Snyderverse trending events, by the way, because they're a celebration. The gifts, the memories of what Zack Snyder did with those 3 iconic movies, but not just with those 3 movies, his involvement in Wonder Woman 2017. The fact that James Wan consulted with him while he was making Aquaman, a film I really, really enjoy. It's exciting to be a DC fan again, thanks to DC's Nightmare and all this hype. And thanks to Zack Snyder for posting all these DC Snyderverse images and pictures. It's all very, very exciting. Because during the summer, during the release of James Gunn's Superman, it was all very disappointing, hurtful, heartbreaking, and underwhelming. Because we didn't have a very exciting Superman film being released. But now there is hope again. And hope is important. Hope's important, right? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Until they allow Zack Snyder to restore the Snyderverse, to finish what he started, Snyderverse fans are not going to allow WB to move away from Zack Snyder. They've tried attempt after attempt, WB, to move away from Zack Snyder. They tried with the Johnson-Berg era. It didn't work. They tried with the Hamada era. They tried with James Gunn's so-called reboot. That's not a reboot, but kind of is a reboot. Who the fuck knows or cares at this point? They tried with Gunn as well, and it hasn't worked. Every attempt to move away from what Zack Snyder did has been thwarted. By then, you can kind of try and blame Snyder fans for it or give them the credit for it. I'd rather give them the credit for being so sophisticated in what they say. But everything that the Snyder fans predicted about the Gunverse, the DCU, has come to pass. It's all true. It's an utter failure. Superman wasn't a very, very good film. And that's a shame. I wanted it to be a good film. And, Superman makes $2 billion at the box office. We're not here now. We're not talking about restoring the Snyderverse, and we're not talking about what could possibly happen. But we are, because it's another attempt to try and move on from Zack Snyder's vision that hasn't worked. And, I don't know if the Snyderverse is going to be restored. My gut feeling says yes. And we could get some news by the end of this year. And we'll see, but I think most probably WB Discovery, Warner Brothers Discovery, will be sold by the end of this year. But that's just the beginning, because so many people are going to protest against that sale. So it's going to be interesting how that develops. And obviously, whoever buys it needs permission from the government to go forward. You've got monopolies and mergers commissions. It's all very complicated. That's why I said to you, this is the beginning of a very, very long journey. Now, hopefully the sale goes as quickly as possible and smoothly, but the public right now don't know where Warner Brothers Discovery is going, if anywhere at all. Now, I don't think anyone really wants Paramount to grab hold of this company. We will see. There's things I cannot say at this moment, because as I said yesterday, I really don't want to be sued. So I'm really looking forward to the trending event, November the 17th. Sell Snyderverse to Netflix. I'll be hashtagging that today, tomorrow, next week and next year, however long it takes. Even though I have concerns about Netflix owning Warner Brothers Discovery, considering they're dealing with The Witcher and other things as well. I think there is cause for concern there, but if they give Zack his creative artistic freedom, then I'm happy to sell Snyderverse to Netflix. We will see. Now, moving on, I want to ask the question, why are comic book fans of Cape Shit so obsessed with canon? Why do they want everything copy and pasted? Now, the two goated adaptations in the 21st century of Superman are Man of Steel and Smallville. Smallville and Man of Steel are cultural icons. They're the ones everyone talks about, everyone remembers. There's this obsession from people on the internet. Why wasn't Superman smiling more in Man of Steel? Batman vs. Superman and the Snyder Cut. Why wasn't he smiling like he was smiling in Superman 1978? I think maybe you should go back and rewatch Superman 1978, because Superman 1978 isn't the goofy, cheesy sitcom you remember it to be. That's not what the film is. It does a great, it does a great job at retelling the myth on Krypton, Clark growing up in Smallville, and then going to Metropolis and becoming Superman. It's great. The colour palettes are bright. It's brightly lit. The costume is bright. It's very traditional. Dick Donner wanted to make a very traditional film. As he said, he didn't want to mess around with Americana and Grandma's apple pie. He wanted to keep it bright. He wanted Superman to be Superman. That's what Superman needed then. But you've got to understand, when Smallville was being made and when Man of Steel was being made, we lived in different times. Smallville launched just after 9/11. And obviously, Man of Steel came a little bit after 9/11. And I think there's some 9/11 themes in Man of Steel and in the Snyderverse. For sure. We are dealing in Man of Steel more with a Jack Bauer type of Superman, if you like. It's Superman's first day in Man of Steel. It's Superman Begins. He puts on the costume, but he's not really Superman in that film. He's beginning. He's got no choice but to put the costume, on and to try and stop Zod. It's a first contact story, but he hasn't had any training. He's spoken to Jor-El briefly. He barely knows what he's doing. And Man of Steel shows this magnificently. When Zod is threatening Martha Kent, you think you can threaten my mother? Clark just reacts. Now, we know that Superman is kind of considered in his actions. But I don't think any version of Superman who sees his mother, Martha Kent, being bullied and threatened by Zod or anyone else is just going to sit there. Superman reacted in the right fucking way. You think you can threaten my mother? Boof, boof, boof. He's lost his temper. He's throwing Zod in a petrol station, exploding. Maybe some people died in that explosion. Clark's not thinking clearly. It's his fucking mother. People criticising that. What would you do if someone threatened your mother and you had superpowers? Exactly the same fucking thing. If you're standing at a bar and you see your mum being threatened by some lout, you're going to start the fisticuffs, right? I know I would. I definitely would. So all this criticism of Henry Cavill's Superman not smiling, being too aggressive, the film having too much violence and destruction is bullshit. I love the violence and destruction in Man of Steel. I think it's fucking epic. The Battle of Smallville is one of the greatest moments in comic movie history. It's fantastic, it looks good, it's very visceral. I think it's brilliant. And you think about Smallville, all this smiling nonsense. Clark doesn't smile a lot in Smallville. He does smile, but not that much. I don't remember hearing any fucking complaints. Tom Welling's Clark Kent goes through a lot of angst through the 10 seasons of Smallville because that's what life is. We all go through shit. We can't all be sitting here smiling 24 fucking 7. I'm smiling, I'm happy, everything's gonna be alright now, right? Like me. I'm very smiley and jokey on social media, on here and on next Twitter. I'm always joking, I don't take myself too seriously. But when the camera's off of me and I'm living my everyday life, and yesterday, I dropped an egg on the floor. I was cursing God to the sky. Why are you doing this to me? Why did you think it was a funny thing to do to make me drop the egg, right? I'm a lunatic, right? But that's how we act in the real world. It's not constant smiles. Everything doesn't always go smoothly. And Man of Steel and BVS especially are a representation of Batman and Superman in the real world. Now, I've said it before, maybe that's not the best of ideas when you're dealing with someone like Superman, but it was done so well. I personally love it because I've got Dick Donner's fantastical Superman. I can watch that whenever I want. This was a more contemporary, real-world 21st century version. And I think Man of Steel was the right interpretation of Superman at the right time. I think Smallville, just coming a few days or a few weeks after 9/11, was the right interpretation for Superman at that time. And it worked. And people have got so many fond memories of Smallville and Man of Steel. You know, Bryan Singer tried to continue the Dick Donner verse. It didn't work. I think it could have been done in a better way. When you see Bryan Singer's Superman Returns, it's a great movie. I really enjoy it. But you don't feel like you're playing, they're playing in Dick Donner's world. It all looks different. The Daily Planet building looks different. It doesn't feel like it's the Donnerverse anyway. So I kind of think that he got what he was doing wrong anyway. He couldn't make his mind up. Is this a new movie, a new direction? Is this the Donnerverse? Make your fucking mind up. He was trying to continue the Donnerverse, but modernise Superman at the same time. I can guarantee you, if Bryan Singer took Superman away from the Donnerverse, Superman Returns would have been more successful, and maybe Brandon Routh would still be Superman today. But it was a mistake, as excited as I was at the time as a fan of Superman 78. First movie I ever saw. The reason I love fucking Superman and cape shit, right? But looking back at it with logic, it wasn't a good idea. Gunn tried to do a traditional Superman. It didn't work. He had him rescuing a fucking squirrel. I don't have anything against that, but clearly, in this day and age, the kind of Dick Donner Superman, the kind of 70s Superman, if you like, or the 60s Superman, the agent of the status quo, doesn't work in a world where we see horrible acts of brutality in the Middle East, people on social media being so shitty to each other. It's a darker world. And for a darker world, you need Superman to be in a darker world. You don't want Superman to be dark. I never thought that Henry Cavill's Superman was dark. He's still Superman. I still think he's an inspirational figure, but the world around him is darker, and that makes sense. And this obsession with canon from comic book fans of, of Cape shit, is mystifying to me. Because both Smallville and Man of Steel didn't break the fact that he's from Krypton, that his parents are Jor-El and Lara, that he's brought up in Smallville. They tell that fucking story. It's not that they're breaking the important pieces of the canon. All they said was, right, we're just going to move some of the pieces here and there. And to be fair, Man of Steel and Smallville made Superman better than it ever was.